Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Get going.
Get going. That's where we started. I pushed record on get going.
Get going.
Yeah.
Get it going.
Don't go into the voice.
What's the voice?
I don't know. You started sounding a little bit Dana Carvey.
Oh, I can't. Once you tell me, like, oh, you're doing that, then I can't do it.
No, I know.
It's like I can't do it anymore. You lit for me.
Okay. Let's do. Let's talk about movies of the week. Have you seen anything good? Anything new?
Oh man, no. I have not seen anything new at all this week. This has been a very, very busy week, and I haven't had a chance to see
Are you
anything.
working on a fun? You're working on a fun project, documentary, something or other?
Um, I am working on a. I, tell me something. In your neck of the woods, have you guys heard of uh, our wonderful sheriff, Joe Arpaio?
He doesn't. He doesn't do good things.
He doesn't. He
No,
doesn't.
he's
He's
from what I understand, and I don't mean this as slander.
mhm.
I am. This is simply reportage. I don't know the man. I have never met him. What I hear, in terms of direct quotes about him, is he is a tool.
He really knows how to sell himself, though. He's a marketing. Um, I might want to even say maverick.
Would you say Wunderkind? Would you say he's a
Wunderkind.
Wunderkind?
Ja,
Joe
ja,
Arpaio is a Wunderkind.
ist sehr gut, ja.
Sehr gut.
Ist ein
Ausgezeichnet.
Wunderkind, ja.
Ausgezeichnet.
Yes, but anyway, um, the person that I work for, he's been doing a documentary about Joe for probably like 7 years now, with kind of exclusive access to Joe.
He's the civil rights guy, right? I mean, just so everybody knows why. Isn't he the guy who set up
He's
all the, he's the guy who's really doing some terrible things in Arizona for civil rights. Is that what I
well,
understand?
he in a certain perspective, I mean, not his perspective, of course,
No.
in his world, he's the hero. You know how it always is. The antagonist always sees himself as the protagonist. He is really an opponent to any sort of immigration into the country. He says he doesn't, single out, pulling over Latinos, but the feds just came out with a report today stating that he does, and there's a lot of unsavory things that have gone on in the sheriff's prisons and jails. The big thing that I think spurred all of this on is there are a few towns in the area that are the cities didn't have enough money to have their own police departments, so they hired the sheriff's department to come in and kind of be their police department. And now that they have kind of built their own police departments, they've found out that the sheriff's office was not doing anything about lots of sex crime cases. And there's like 400 some sex crime cases that are now everyone's looking into. So, there's a lot of unsavory activities. He makes all of the prisoners in his prisons wear pink. He's kind of a degrading sort of fellow.
It's fascinating. I'm looking at pictures. I'm looking at pictures on Google, and it's all they are. They're all pink.
Very big day in the news for him because of the feds basically saying that he was committing these, atrocities and all this stuff. Even though it just said that they're going to, instead of like taking him away, they're now going to just sit down and work with him to figure something out. That's basically, yeah. So anyway, we've been working on this documentary, kind of following it, and a lot of intimate access with Sheriff Joe. And I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. It could be this. We could be getting close to the end of the story. Who knows?
Wow, this is amazing. The equipment that he gives these guys. I'm looking at these where they're calling, the LA Times is calling battlefield tested technology. The patrol cars outfitted with computer systems used in Iraq. Enable deputies to respond to calls faster and get data on subjects instantly. This is a tank.
He's got his big tank in all of the Christmas, like when we went down and watched the Christmas light parade. He always is in all the Christmas light parades with his tank decorated in Christmas lights.
That's amazing.
And the crowd is always, half of the people are cheering for him and half of the people are booing when he rolls by. It's always, I mean, he is a character, and even he himself, says that what he's doing, it's all the Joe show. I mean, he's kind of named it all himself as the Joe show. So it'll be really interesting to see where this documentary ends up going.
So it's not being produced for any particular. It's not a project for any particular channel yet.
Nope. It's independent. It's not tied in with any party affiliations. It's not tied in with anything. It's kind of a just a look at this guy and his rule as sheriff down here.
Mm-hmm.
So
fascinating.
It's a really interesting documentary. And well, it will be when it's done. But just the story that he has, it's a very interesting one. So I look forward to seeing how it all turns out.
So that's your big project.
That's my end of the spectrum, I guess.
So I'm just looking at a couple of trailers came out that surprised me this week. I feel like by the time people listen to this, they're going to be kind of old news. But did you see? You're not going to have seen this. G.I. Joe 2.
I did see that trailer. Retaliation.
Did that kind of blow you away? I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know that the movie was coming. And when I saw who was in it, I was kind of blown away.
I agree that I didn't know it was coming.
And I don't mean, I say blown away. That usually has a really sort of a positive connotation. And this is really completely neutral. I was blown away, just in general, surprised that Dwayne Johnson, not surprised Dwayne Johnson's in it, but Bruce Willis?
Yeah, I know.
Really?
Well, because I didn't see Dennis Quaid in the trailer, so I'm wondering if
he's gone.
He kind of pulled out of it, and now they've brought Bruce Willis in to kind of be the big face of the show. So
well, and where do you stand then on The Expendables 2?
That's the one where the stunt guy died.
I don't know that story.
They were shooting a scene over somewhere in like Estonia, I believe, and I can't remember the specifics, but like a stunt guy died while they were filming, or after filming or something. But yeah, it was kind of a big story over there. So
wow.
The Expendables was a popcorn entertainment.
I didn't see it. Was it good? I mean, like popcorn. Was it good popcorn entertainment?
No. I mean, it was entertaining, but it was certainly something that you can walk out of just kind of forgetting, I guess.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I will say about The Expendables, I do like the fact that they got all those old 80s action stars together to put in a movie together.
Yeah. And
so
now that they have done it again.
Yes.
That's fascinating to me.
I'm curious if they're adding more 80s action stars.
Yeah.
Like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Van Damme is in it, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, he is. He's in it. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Okay, we got Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren, Chuck Norris.
Excellent. There you go.
Terry Crews, Randy Couture, Liam Hemsworth, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Writers, Sly Stallone. Here's an interesting thing. Have you seen JCVD?
I haven't. I heard it was interesting, though.
Put that on the list. It should be on the list. You need to watch it and tell me if it hits you sideways like it hit me in the best way.
Yeah.
I was really moved by that movie.
Well,
I was surprisingly moved. Put it on your list.
I'm curious about it. It always kind of piqued my curiosity. Not to the point where I've gone out and watched it yet, but I'll have to watch it.
It's definitely worth checking out.
It makes me think of that. I'm not going to remember the name of it, but Bruce Campbell was in a movie similar where he was playing Bruce Campbell, and these guys bring him to this little town in the middle of nowhere to this film festival, and accidentally in the process unleash some ancient evil spirit that Bruce Campbell, the actor, now everybody's relying on him to actually try to get rid of, even though he's really just the actor. Bruce Campbell.
Was that My Name is Bruce?
That's what it was.
That was the one.
That was it. Yeah.
I like Bruce Campbell. I'm a big fan of Burn Notice, the TV show he's on.
I haven't seen it.
It's a good show. It's a good show. I had other news, but I think we should talk about this movie. It's a little late. We got a little late start. I think we should talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
This is the third in our Charlie Kaufman trilogy.
Yeah, we took a little holiday break.
We did.
And we're jumping back in with
this one. This is directed by Michel Gondry. Michel Gondry. He's a French dude. I'm fascinated by Gondry. I can't wait to hear what you think of this guy. This movie, oh man, this, I'll say this was actually this was the first Charlie Kaufman written movie that I knew was Charlie Kaufman when I saw it. When I saw the other two, I was not sort of consciously aware that they were, quote, sort of air quote Kaufman films.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was the first one that I was actually making a conscious connection to the writer. And this movie moves me so deeply. My question for you is, does your wife like this movie?
We both love this movie.
Really?
Yeah, except something about the way Kaufman tells his stories. My wife told me, she's like, I don't think I could watch any of those movies more than once a year. So it's not something that would be repeated viewing for her.
My wife does not like this movie. And my operating hypothesis was that chicks don't like this movie in particular. And now you've just blown it.
I'm sorry. I'll blame it on my wife.
All right. Well, that's easy. That's fish in a barrel. I think this movie, the reason this movie hits me so well is that more than the fantastically subtle sci-fi that is going on in this movie, is that it is a movie that deals at the genetic core of male vulnerability in serious relationships. How's that?
Wow. That's heavy, man. That's good.
Was it too heavy for you? Did I blow your mind a little bit?
Well, it's, yeah. And I don't know if I would go so far as to just say male vulnerability.
Were there women in this movie? I don't even remember. All I know is that Jim Carrey cried a lot.
He does cry a lot.
Cried like a babe.
But we have Mary. Are you forgetting Mary?
Yeah, you're doing that. Your internet's doing that thing again. Now I got to get my notepad and write down, we've been talking for so long and now I have to edit.
Well, let's see. But no, it's a film. You know what's interesting is I also pulled out the script and was looking through the script again because I remembered that I was involved in a writing group, and we would actually do these monthly movie viewings where I just plugged in I'm wired now as opposed to wireless.
That's good. I think that hopefully that'll be better.
Yeah.
All right.
But
so you go ahead. You're doing the writing thing.
I was in a screenwriters group, and we would do monthly movie nights where we would read the script, and then we would watch the movie, and then we would go out afterward and discuss. And so I had the script, and so I pulled it out again because the one thing that I really remembered from the script, aside from it just being a great read, let me pull it up here.
There's a lot that's moved around. The movie was really butchered from the script.
I don't know if I'd say butchered.
Well, I mean, just scenes were moved around like a funky puzzle. A lot of the intro dialogue was moved from the end to the beginning.
Yeah, the entire beginning sequence where Joel and Clementine meet in Montauk and kind of fall for each other, have a little connection and everything. The whole scene, the whole sequence, I should say, was originally in the script at the end. And, in the edit, we needed to start with something where we can like Clementine, because if you just jump into the movie and we start watching as she's getting erased from his mind, it's just all the negative Clementine right at the beginning,
right.
and no one's going to like her. So they moved some of it up front, which was, I think, a really smart move. It does help, and it also really works on that non-chronological puzzle that we're trying to figure out. Like, where are we? He walks outside and the car is, scraped down the side, and he assumes it's his neighbor, and all that great stuff that later we learn how the car actually got damaged and everything.
For people who haven't, I hope that people wouldn't be listening to this movie if they hadn't actually, or listen to this podcast if they hadn't actually seen the movie. But for those who haven't, go see the movie first. But let's do a quick recap of what the movie is actually about. You want to do that?
Yeah. Sure. Let me read it this time.
Okay. It's tricky.
So let me just read this off of beingcharliekaufman.com.
All right.
This is what they have as the pitch. Introverted boy meets extroverted girl. Boy and girl have a relationship. Relationship ends. Girl undergoes a medical procedure to erase boy's existence and has the same procedure done to himself. But halfway through, as he relives each memory in reverse chronological order, bad breakup to great beginning, all played out on screen for us, he realizes that some of those memories are worth holding on to. Boy tries to fight against the erasure. This is Charlie Kaufman and Michel Gondry's topsy-turvy spin on romantic comedy, an original script based on an idea by Pierre Bismuth, a conceptual artist friend of Michel's. It's also attained the biggest cult following and the most critical commercial success of any Kaufman film to date. That last bit obviously was not part of the synopsis, but
right.
I just plowed right through it. So there you go.
As you're reading that, I'm thinking to myself, how would you ever pitch that and get that movie made?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is they actually started pitching this in 1998.
Wow.
So before Being John Malkovich was made.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
This
so it took
it's good. It sort of needed time to percolate because in so
quite a
many
while
ways,
because this
your internet's doing that thing.
Still, let me turn off the video.
It's really that's sad. Makes me sad.
I know.
I like looking at you.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
But
I was saying that this is a in so many ways this movie actually. I'm so glad we did these 3 movies in a row because you sort of see the evolution of, I think, this male character in Charlie Kaufman's head. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I see now. Now I'm totally second guessing every time you're silent. I think you're cutting out on me now.
No, you're talking about just the role of, I guess you could say, the male protagonist across these 3 films.
Yeah. Because with every film, he takes this male character to another, like, just slightly further place. There's always this. In some places, it's a metaphorical transformation. In some it's a quite literal. Going through the door. Into Malkovich's head, a quite literal transformation, and in this one, going into that much of the movie takes place in Joel Barish's mind. Like he agrees to let this massively invasive procedure take place, and to go inside and explore quite literally all of his emotions and his feelings. And that sort of internal struggle that you see play out inside of his head, I think, is extremely powerful. And it to me, it punctuates the Being John Malkovich, the adaptation, the male protagonist in those 2 movies. It sort of finishes it. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to you, does it?
Yeah, in a very, well, to a certain extent. It's all about, males and their identity, really. I mean, that's really what I think that's what he's really exploring
Right.
is identity and who are we and what makes us. In the first one, we learned that Craig Schwartz can't be, he finds that he can't, being this puppeteer, he can't be complete and have what he wants unless he's really controlling something, which ends up being John Malkovich, and it kind of ruins his life, I guess you could say, since it pretty much ends it by locking him in the mind of a child.
Right.
In adaptation, we've got these kind of almost split personality brothers and twins of Charlie Kaufman and his brother, that are struggling with their own identity as a screenwriter or as screenwriters, trying to adapt a story and what it means to have passion about telling a story and just and what that means about you and just having passion in your own life and all of that. And then this one is really about what is it that makes you as a person, especially, well, particularly in a relationship.
In a relationship. That's what I was going to say, because in these first two movies, the relationships are peripheral to that transformation, right? In this movie, it is so raw because the lessons we're learning about identity are directly related to the relationship.
Yeah.
So the first part, we were talking about the first part of the movie, the first 17 minutes, right? Up until that's when the credits roll, the opening credits roll. Mm-hmm. And so you're well into the movie, and you have explored for 17 minutes this very positive and sort of gentle, kind of fragile opening relationship where he is awkward and she is so the Kate Winslet is this just beautiful, bubbly Clementine. They meet in Montauk and end up falling in sort of fast love. Mm-hmm. And then the credits roll and we cut to him in tears in a truck or in his car. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what to make of that.
Exactly. It's really, I mean, it's a great, and you don't know that at this point that you're watching things out of chronological order.
Right.
So it seems like, we just jumped from the beginning of their relationship to now we're at the end of their relationship.
Right.
And, I know that's exactly what I thought when I saw it. It's like, okay, this is the end of their relationship. That was just setting us up. So I knew how pleasant everything was with their relationship and the magic of it and everything. And then now we watch it crumble. But it's, and then watching a relationship deconstruct. Actually, I guess you would say watching a relationship reconstruct, because you're really watching it go from bad to good.
Well, that's the sort of the magic of it, right? That's what makes it a story of redemption.
Right.
Because by the end of the movie, you've earned it. In this, in the first half hour, it almost feels like, we watch him. So at 30 minutes we hit his first visit to the doctor, and the doctor is at the Lacuna Inc.
Right.
Dr. Howard Mierzwiak, who is a doctor who can erase memories selectively. Mm-hmm. And what our protagonist, Joel, has learned is that Kate Winslet has already visited this doctor, and after their horrible breakup, she has decided to have Joel erased from her memory.
Right.
And so Joel, in, I think, emotional retaliation, decides to do the same.
Yep.
So all of this is jammed into the first half hour of the movie.
Right.
I would say, I don't know, maybe that's 40 minutes. No, it's actually about 35 minutes. 35 minutes, they're in his house.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
And that's really when the movie starts.
Yeah, then you start watching the relationship and just the whole story. Plus, that's when all the subplots really kick in with the technicians who are removing his thought or his memories.
Would you, since you've already walked through the movie with your, the big brains on campus, you know, how would you characterize just technically? Could you walk through technically some of the tricks they used to play with the erasure of memory? For the next 40 minutes, we watch his memories being erased, and they did some really fascinating things.
Yeah, and you know what was great about it is they didn't do a lot of flashy, modern technological CG tricks. I mean, they did CG tricks, but it was much more subtle. The very first memory that gets erased is he's in his apartment complex's foyer by the mailboxes, and he's talking to his neighbor again. But then all of a sudden, everything except for Joel kind of starts fading, getting a little blurry, and kind of getting dark to the point where it's just gone. So that's the first one, and it's an interesting one because literally we had just watched that scene before he goes up to his apartment and takes the pills and goes to sleep. These guys come in. So we're at that point. Now we start going backward, and then we jump to his friends when Joel actually finds out about this whole thing, and you start seeing all of these different scenes and a lot of really interesting way they do it, where they're playing with the camera's depth of field, where Joel is in focus, but everything just past him falls out of focus, and it keeps happening. And that's something where some of it may have been in camera, but I'm sure they also did some digital manipulation with that. But I mean, it works really well.
Right.
A lot of things start disappearing, signs all of a sudden are blank. I think the bookstore is just fantastic. All the book, the spine, the covers all start all of a sudden kind of just turning white. And that's actually kind of interesting because they didn't have enough budget to completely just do all of them. And so in between takes, the production designer and his team would go in and they would actually pull the dust jackets off the book, flip them over, and put them back on. So
the
they
white
were
side was out.
Yeah, so the white side was out. So they were actually going in and manually doing it. Every time there was a cut, they would go in and do a couple more books. So slowly, all of these books are just turning more and more white, and then they digitally did some more. They do a lot of playing with light and shadow, where it's almost like a hot spotlight shining on Joel, and everything else is kind of falling out of that light, and the light kind of moves around. And so sometimes you'll see Clementine, she's in the light, and then the camera and the light will kind of pan away from Joel, and when it comes back, she's gone.
It's very sort of horror inspired.
It really is kind of if this were a horror film. Yeah. I mean, it could be really creepy because it's a very kind of surreal way for a ghost, for example, could disappear and reappear.
Right.
Yeah.
There's okay, so they do that. There's a lot of looping. There's a lot of looping where he is trying to cross the street and can't, where he's in the doctor's office and he walks through one office and suddenly is looking at himself, bringing in all of his memory bag into the office from a few moments earlier.
Right. There's scenes where they go into a room and everybody's faces are gone.
Right. I think that was just that was a terrible thing when they were on the phone. He walks into the doctor's office. He's on the phone. The pieces where they actually, I mean, that's obvious CG manipulation are the scenes where the sort of elements in the scene are actually disappearing. We're at the drive-in movie, and the fence starts disappearing one plank at a time.
Right, the car and the fence, exactly.
When they start at one point. So the premise of this dissolution of his memory is that they're in his apartment back in the real life, in the real world, and they have this fancy contraption on his head, and one by one they're going through and targeting his memories. And they are erasing them, and then we cut back into his mind, and elements, physical elements that he's seeing start to disappear. And as he discovers and sort of changes his mind about having his memory erased, he starts trying to choose places that were not memory triggers, that would not be on the target of erasure.
And dragging his memory version of Clementine with him to those places.
And one of the memory locations that I found was really powerful for a couple of reasons, but that I thought was really well played was when they went to his house as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Which time was it? When he was really young?
Yeah, when he was really.
Because there was like at least 3 or 4 different ages.
Well, there were 2 of them that stuck out to me. The first one, from a dramatic perspective, I liked the it was further toward the end of the film, which is when it shows up and there are all the kids sitting around the radio flyer, and he is holding a hammer over a pigeon.
Yeah, a
dead bird, and he's hammering the bird.
Yeah, I know. Well,
so that was not good. But that I liked that scene in particular. I like how she sort of comes in to rescue him, and her memory version is taking control in his own memory. I thought that was powerful. But back to the technical bit, they go to his house and they use the sort of forced perspective trick to make Jim Carrey the size of a 6-year-old, I guess.
And
then younger
I think he was younger than that. Yeah, I would think he was probably maybe 4 at that point.
4, but then and then it switches to him being small enough to be bathed in the sink.
Yeah, like an infant.
Yeah,
right?
like an infant. And so that even within that sort of sequence at his house, did they do that with the Hobbit style force or the Lord of the Rings style force perspective, or was that?
They did some of that forced perspective where they had a big set where everything was huge. They had him kind of in that environment, and then they had Clementine much closer to the camera so that she looked actual size.
Fascinating.
Yes.
That was a bit I thought he played really well. Jim, sometimes I have a hard time with Jim Carrey, and I thought he did that really well.
Yeah, I think this is one of his strongest performances ever. I just, is so good. I think the whole cast, him, Kate Winslet as Clementine, I think they were just spot on perfect. I mean, Kate Winslet's character Clementine, I read that she made Premiere Magazine's 100 Greatest Movie Characters of All Time list back in 2006, I believe it was.
Well, it is a terrific film, and this movie has achieved great critical acclaim. It's on all the name the top 100 and higher lists of great movies, and this one's on it. It also has some great supporting performances as well. We've talked a little bit about Tom Wilkinson as the doctor,
Dr. Mierzwiak, right?
Who, man, he's just terrific, and his staff is made up of these just sort of goofs. Mark Ruffalo. This is, I think, it may have been the first movie I think I remember seeing him in.
Interesting.
Kirsten Dunst, Elijah Wood as now Elijah Wood is an interesting character.
This I think of the movies I've seen of his has to be his creepiest role.
Really
Maybe
creepy.
this or Sin City. I mean, Sin City, he's creepy because he's a psychopathic killer. But this is like, I mean, he steals girls' panties. I mean, it's like really creepy.
I know.
And then he goes and starts dating them. I mean, it's like, oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, no, it's not good. That's his gimmick, is that he is there, and he now I maybe I'm not remembering this right. Does he actually work on the staff, or is he's just he's one of the hired goons?
Yeah, he and Mark Ruffalo are the
They're
two
the techs.
technicians
And
who
so
go to the house, right? Yeah.
because he was there like plugging wires in, and I think it was unclear what his specific role was, especially since he doesn't show up later. He skips out
Well,
later.
he skips out to go find his girlfriend,
Right.
who is Clementine, because when they erased Clementine, he fell in love with her and he started a
And
relationship with her.
started
Second up,
stealing Joel
stealing.
Barish's memories of her
Yeah. Uh-huh.
to woo her.
Yeah. His memories, his gifts for her. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that is sort of the major subplot is not only is Mark Ruffalo sort of leading the charge to to track down memory Joel and erase those memories before he can skip out to another location, but there's this other sort of chase where Elijah Wood is chasing Clementine, while Joel is chasing Elijah Wood, trying to figure out who this mystery guy is.
Right, because he's never seen his face
And
before.
that is one of the best bits.
It's creepy.
It's so creepy. In the bookstore, when he walks over to the back of the head and starts and grabs him by the shoulder and turns him around.
Uh-huh.
And what you see then, he turns him around and really quickly, it's the back of his head again.
Right.
That is one of the creepiest bits.
And I think what may top it for me is when he stumbles into him at the doctor's office without realizing it's the same guy. And he looks down at him, and Elijah Wood had like dropped something on the floor and is picking it up. And his eyelids are like
Yes.
reversed. They're like upside down. It's just so disturbing when he looks up at Joel. It's like, what? It really is unsettling.
Where do you stand on Michel Gondry? General body of work stuff.
I've only seen, I think, 2 films of his. This one and his previous film with Charlie Kaufman, which was called, what was it called? Human Nature, which I really didn't like at all. Although, to fit along with everything else that Charlie Kaufman's done up to this point was, it still is all about identity.
Right.
But I just hated it. Absolutely, just thought it was atrocious. And I haven't seen anything else of his. The Science of Sleep. I thought it looked really cool, but I don't know. I just never wanted to see it. Be Kind, Rewind, and The Green Hornet both just looked really bad, and they ended up getting bad reviews. So,
Well, Be Kind, Rewind was it was dumb. The Green Hornet is I'm just, some of these movies I'm so surprised he did. Like I just don't get, like I don't see, you look at Charlie Kaufman's stuff, right? And there's sort of a general theme of the work he creates and is a part of. And
right.
I just don't see that theme from Michel Gondry. He started doing a lot of music related stuff. He did music videos, he did music documentaries, Daft Punk stuff. He did some work for a lot of stuff for Bjork, which tells I think a lot.
Yeah, that's telling. That's very telling, right?
But Massive Attack, The Chemical Brothers, and then he starts getting into kind of B-movie type stuff. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was, I think, his first major film.
Well, Human Nature.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Human Nature was 2001.
Yeah, it came out first.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know how big I would say it was.
Well, it was a hit Patricia Arquette film.
That's
so that may say enough.
Yeah, it didn't do well.
No.
It didn't do well.
But
it was pretty bad.
This one was it was fantastic. He just nailed it. And then since then, there's a whole lot of nothing really exciting. He did do a terrific episode of Flight of the Conchords, which is one of my very favorite shows. And another one that surprised me, It hurts that I can't remember now. There was another thing on his bio that really surprised me, but it's gone.
Well, he is one of the two directors that Charlie Kaufman has worked with, that Charlie works very intimately with when they're making one of Charlie's screenplays into a film.
Mm-hmm.
The other being Spike Jonze, and we've talked about two of those films, those collaborations. And then he's had these two collaborations now with Michel Gondry. I think that this is the sort of director that Charlie Kaufman really likes to work with. Somebody who is collaborative, who will want him to be there and be on set and throw ideas out and really kind of be a part of the team and be part of the storytelling process to make a better film. And I think that's why on Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, I think that's why Charlie Kaufman felt so bitter and disappointed, because George Clooney really wanted to kind of do everything himself and kind of just, thanked Charlie for the script. And I think that was kind of that.
I wonder if it was a better movie as a result of it.
I don't know. It would be interesting to see it if it had been made in an alternate universe where George and Charlie actually were very collaborative on it.
Final unsung hero of the film, I think, is Tobias Funke.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, David Cross, that he didn't get just a larger role for being who he is. I could watch that guy. I could just watch that guy sitting still on a beanbag chair for 2 hours and be happy.
He's so good.
He's so good.
And he plays Rob, Joel's friend, who's married to Carrey, and they have kind of a fun relationship. It's not like a great relationship, but you can tell that they love each other still.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of relationships, there's that little antagonistic vibe that married couples who've been together for a long time kind of carry, even though that antagonism never goes deep.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just
forgettable,
kind of like
forgettable antagonism.
Exactly. And I think that's what I love about this film is it really is a story about relationships. And you have Joel and Clementine's story, but then you have all these little subplots and just side stories of other love stories to see other relationships. And you get this sense of when you go through this process of actually getting memories erased. And this is what I think makes the film so powerful, is that these two characters, in a sense, are really kind of meant to be together. And even after both Joel and Clementine have finally had the other erased from their minds, they're still drawn back to Montauk, where they, conveniently end up re-meeting, even though they don't think they've ever met before, and starting a whole relationship all over again. It's really amazing. And this, let me jump into the script real quick, because this is what I wanted to mention. The script actually starts off with an old woman who's got this a tattered manuscript. It says maybe 1,000 pages that she's carrying into this publishing house, and she's trying to get them to publish this story. She's this little old woman. The person at the publishing house never wants to talk to her, but she's just like, it's essential that people read this. It's the truth, and I'm the only one who knows it. And she leaves, disappointed that the guy hasn't seen her again. She goes down a subway, hops into a plastic molded chair that drops into this tunnel, and she sits in it, and it rises, and she flies through this tube through the city, and we realize, we're in the future, right? At the very end of the story, we come back to this old woman, and she sits down in a waiting room. She sits down behind the reception desk. She takes this tattered manuscript, drops it in her drawer. An old man comes out and says, "How are you today, Mary?" And she's like, "Let's see, still dying, Howard." we're back to Mary and Howard, now as old people still running Lacuna.
Wow.
And we start getting a sense of that this whole thing has been going on for a very long time. And she has the truth, and she's trying to get it out there. And then we see another old woman come in, and she has an appointment, and her name is Clementine, whatever it is, Krasinski. And then she goes in to sit down with Howard, and he pulls out her file, and there are 15 dates of erasures stretching across the last 50 years, all of them involving Joel Barish.
No way.
And so, yeah. And
I
so
can't believe that's fantastic.
it's amazing. And so, and it's great because then she's in, well, I met this man, Joel, 3 years ago at a senior dance. We'd both been alone for so long. And she kind of goes on and on and on. It's this thing where it's like you have this person who you're meant to be with, but because this opportunity is available to kind of erase them, you do so without realizing that you're it's a part of yourself that you can't really, you can't really get rid of. I don't know. I find it really interesting that it almost is a, what is it? It's like a look at, I don't want to say like, reincarnation, but it does have that sort of sense where it's like there's a person who you're kind of meant to be with, and inevitably you're going to end up being with that person. Even if you try to erase them from your mind, you'll end up back with that person.
That's it's interesting to hear you talk about that, and then to jump into how they actually played out the film.
Yeah.
The way the film actually ends, we jump back to we sort of wake up after the erasure, and we're back at the beginning. He walks outside, he sees the car. The car has the scratch. He goes to the train station. He's on the train. He's heading out to Montauk. They meet, they do their thing.
Right.
And they get home. And then she had said in the beginning, can I go back to your place to sleep?
Right.
And so we cut to that same sequence without that line. It's like the next line where she says, I'm just going to run and get my toothbrush.
Mm-hmm.
She goes inside and she gets the mail. And in the mail is her file from Lacuna Inc. As it turns out, Mary Svevo, with a cassette tape. Mary Svevo had, there's the subplot about how Mary Svevo, the admin, had her memory erased because she'd had a relationship with a doctor and had an abortion, and she discovered this, and in a fit of pique, she sent the files to all of the patients of Lacuna. Mm-hmm. And so she obviously was no longer working there 50 years hence. In this case, that they're back in the car, and Clementine puts the cassette of her session into the cassette deck, and the two, Joel and Clementine, listen to Clementine's words talking about how she feels about Joel at that point in their relationship, and she did not like him very much.
Right.
And he thinks he thinks it's some sort of a joke. He kicks her out of the car. She jumps out in a rage, and she goes off confused back to her house. He goes home and gets the same piece of mail and listens to the same cassette tape and listens to himself talking about how he doesn't think she's very intelligent. She's not book smart. She doesn't have a very good vocabulary. Yeah.
Her hair color keeps changing.
Which was actually, we should talk about the hair color. It's a trick in the movie. It's actually a mile marker in the movie.
Yeah, it really helps.
It really, really helps. But the most beautiful piece, all of that, you sort of have to get through all of that little bit, that 10 minutes before the last 3 minutes, because when she goes to his place and sees him curled up on the floor, and they sort of talk about how confusing it is, how weird it is to listen to themselves talk about themselves after reading these files and listening to these tapes. And he catches her in the hall and says, wait. And she says, for what, Joel? And he says, just wait for a while. I don't know. And they make the decision to have the relationship again, knowing that in all likelihood it would end poorly. and they say, okay.
Yeah, that's a great line that he has. Where it's like, all right. He is completely willing to accept that things may not work out, but interested enough to give it a try anyway.
And so as this movie is baffling and requires work to watch, right? I mean, it requires study. It's one of those movies.
It requires multiple viewings to really figure out, oh, that was from that. This is why she has a bruise, and she pulls down her pants to look at the big bruise on her butt, and it's like, oh, okay, that ties to that way back at that point, et cetera, et cetera.
But until you get to those last 4 minutes, you don't actually realize that this really is a story of hope.
Yeah.
That they could have gone the other way. It could have been a movie that dissolved. But I think it ended in such a sweet, subtle, just beautiful way that wrapped the movie up just so well.
It really does. And you know what else I really like about it is it cuts to them after that moment. It cuts to them back out on the beach in Montauk, the kind of that snowy, cold beach. And the two of them are running through the snow. And, I can't be sure. I don't have it playing in front of me right now, but I swear there's like a little jump cut in there. Like we're watching them playing in the snow, and all of a sudden there's like a little jump cut, and then it's just more of them playing in the snow. But when I saw that, I was like, that's very interesting, because it's like they were repeating this multiple times, and they keep coming back to it. But because they really, deep down inside, they really do love each other, they always decide to come back and be together every time. Even if they do find out that
I have it playing here, and I'm so glad you said that. That even makes the end so much better. I'm usually so checked out after the hallway scene that I just sort of let that go. But you're right; it's not just once; it's twice. There are two jump cuts as they're running down the beach, and it keeps bringing them back to a point early, just slightly ahead of where they are, as it fades to white to roll credits.
Yeah. I just think that's such a wonderfully subtle way of saying, you know what, relationships aren't perfect. They don't always work out, but they're still worth having.
Yeah.
It's what makes you who you are. I just love it. I think it's such a solid film. It's such a beautifully told story. It definitely worth, he definitely was worthy of winning an Oscar for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone
did this. I said, Jim Carrey. I said Jim Carrey. I sometimes have trouble with Jim Carrey. This was absolutely a standout film for him, and this was the film that sort of allowed him to do, I think, other films of a more serious nature.
I think he had tried off and on beforehand. I think that definitely this was by far, I think, his most successful journey into a much more serious sort of film, and I'm really glad that he did it. I really am.
He had done before that.
The Majestic is the only one that I can think of before that.
The Majestic, Me, Myself, and Irene.
Oh, Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon.
Of a serious one. Yeah. Truman Show.
But see, the Truman Show was the one that came up for me And so I guess I sort of take that back. I had as soon as I said this was the one that sort of allowed him to do more serious movies, I realized I'm totally wrong. I think it was the Truman Show that actually got him to that.
You're right. It was. And
we can't forget Man on the Moon.
Yeah.
What's going on with Jim Carrey, man? I mean, he from Liar Liar, which I thought was terrifically funny.
Oh, yeah.
Everything before that was just sort of, Cable Guy was terrible. Ace Ventura was what it was. The Mask was what it was. I mean, they're just funny. They're funny, goofy kind of movies.
Goofy films.
Liar Liar was terrifically funny. The Truman Show, Simon Birch, Man on the Moon, skipping Me, Myself, and Irene, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Majestic, Bruce Almighty, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Lemony Snicket, I actually haven't seen, But from then on out, there's not a whole lot of good stuff. Mr.
Well,
Popper's Penguins.
I think that what he's done good since Eternal Sunshine is his foyer, his, what am I saying? His foyers, his I don't know what I'm saying. His the animated films that he did.
Yeah, he did
Like,
Horton Hears a Who.
I really enjoy Horton Hears a Who, and I really enjoy. I'm maybe one of the only ones, but I really enjoy the Christmas Carol, the Robert Zemeckis.
I
Christmas.
haven't seen it. I can't.
I like
say.
it. I like it quite a bit. It's very.
It's one of those
very
uncanny valley movies. Just kind of weirds me out.
Yeah, I don't mind those.
I will see it. I'll give it that. I'm going to see it.
But yeah, Jim Carrey is great. The cinematographer Ellen Kuras. I thought that it's such like just this amazingly beautiful naturalism, the way that the film is shot, and the way the memories, just all the stuff going on with the memories, the way they chose to do that. I thought it was just beautifully done. John Bryan did the music, and I just he's one of those composers that. I can kind of take him or leave him, but I think in this one I really enjoyed his music. It just worked really well for the film, and it kind of ties into some of the sound effects as memories are getting sucked out and everything.
It does in so many places. You're not sure if you're listening to a score or to a sound effect. It's really very haunting.
It's haunting. That's exactly a perfect word for it.
In general, I think this is this is a. There's no wonder this is on the movies we like list. This is a terrific film. There's so much meat to it. There's so much to say. What are we doing? Do you have anything else? Are you good?
I am trying to think if there's anything else. I think I'm going to look at, one thing we didn't mention. I don't know how big it is, but the title of the film comes from Alexander Pope's poem, Eloise and Abelard, which was the play that Craig Schwartz was doing on the streets in Being John Malkovich.
Yes.
It's the story of the, Eloise and Abelard's illicit love affair. Although actually I was reading about it, Abelard was her teacher, and he was a very popular teacher and philosopher in Paris. They get married, so they actually get married. So it's not really an illicit love affair, but apparently, according to her parents, it is. And her family castrates him, which I think is like, wow. I mean, as a father, I can use that, I guess, as a tool if
That's
I
right.
really am unhappy with someone my daughter dates. But
come on in, son. I'd like to show you. I'd like to show you an adaptation. Oh, that's rich.
But then he becomes a monk, and she, her whole thing is she would rather, she begs for, not for forgiveness, but for forgetfulness. She would rather just forget him, and that's where the line "Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind" comes from, which I think is really interesting.
It is very interesting. At one point, Kirsten Dunst's character actually reads the segment. Right. She initially mistakenly attributes it to Pope Alexander,
which I just think is great.
Priceless. Anyway.
Yep.
What are we doing next?
Have
we decided? Are we out?
Maybe we should leave it a surprise. We're going to be doing
because you don't know.
Well, I think we discussed. I think we kind of decided we were going to do a movie that had some sort of a New Year's celebration scene, so that we could ring in the new year.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I remember that.
Do you remember what movie we had talked about doing?
Not a one. Not a one. I didn't. I look forward to pressing stop so that you can tell me.
That's right.
That's what we're going to do.
Well, knowing you won't press stop for a very long time.
That's not nice.
Oh, my.
Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete, and to be honest, it's a lot of work too, but it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page where we've listed every movie that we've talked about paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on The Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club.
To our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support The Next Reel and our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we've put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?